So, full disclosure here, guys, I am a complete amateur on the subject matter of automotive air conditioning systems. I have zero formal training on vapor cycle air conditioning. Some on air cycle, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, so I've serviced the pump with the oil, just a fraction below the max line there, as you can see. I've got the gauges hooked up just in the interest of leak checking the system. I think these gauges are massively inaccurate with respect to vacuum here. You can see we're at 0 and -1 bar on the bar scale and 30 inches of mercury here. This will pretty much immediately pull because there's virtually no volume to be drawn down here. It will pull down to almost the max vacuum, which is unattainable really on a practical level, but it shows that. But we can get a sense of, is the system tight? So let me say this much. Yes, this is a cheap manifold gauge set. I think I paid like 50 bucks Canadian for this like a couple of years back, maybe. Well, I guess it was quite a few years ago now, maybe 5 years ago or something. Yes, it's a, $80 Canadian. Convert that to your local currency. Vacuum pump, single stage. Yes, it's cheap. Why buy cheap? Well, I don't know about you, but when I'm starting violin lessons, man, I'm not going to show up with a Stradivarius. You get the point? This is to see how my interest develops in the subject matter, guys, and I believe your tooling should reflect your level of competency in the discipline. And right now, I'm at the bottom end of the learning curve. We'll see. Okay, so we're just shy of 5 o'clock here. I'm going to let this run for about half an hour. You'll notice right away I've got all the these two valves are open, of course, so I can put a vacuum on both sides. When it first draws, there's a bit of oil or vapor that actually exhausts from the exhaust port here, but as soon as it draws under vacuum, that pretty much diminishes. I can actually show you that in action. Let's start it here. So we're just coming up for 5 o'clock. As you can see on the clock here, I'm going to let this run for half an hour. So turn it on, just watch the vapor. I'll try and get an angle you can actually see it. There you can see there's a little bit of vapor that comes out, but the volume is actually volume with respect to audible volume, noise level is actually very low. And you can see this is already pulled down to actually max. Let me just crack a line here to show you that it is in fact a tight system. I'll crack the line. You can hear the vacuum pump actually change. And again, it dispenses oil vapor when it's an open system. And then as soon as it goes under vacuum, the vapor actually stops. So I'm going to let this run because the idea is I'm just running the pump for maybe 15 minutes on its initial oil. And just to see how this actually goes. I'll be interested to see how quickly this actually leaks down. Okay, so I think that was somewhere in the order of 15 minutes. I guess that's long enough. Don't really need to run it for half an hour. So again, the idea is, guys, I'm just going to change the oil on this again. It's just the initial run for it to, break and run, if you will. And I'll be interested to see how this gauge set leaks down. How this is, of course, just leak checking the gauges, and again, they're cheap gauges. If nothing else, this video will prove the point how inaccurate these gauges are. The manifold gauge set is with respect to telling you how much vacuum is in the system. Theoretically, this is an impossible level of vacuum for starters. We're at 30 inches of mercury there, as you can see on the gauges, 1 atmosphere, but it will still suffice with respect to, do I have a tight system, is it leaking under vacuum, and pulling the system down to its maximum vacuum. The max vacuum is on the pump there. Would be at the pump, and of course this is for advertising purposes only. It won't reach anywhere near that level of vacuum, I'm sure. Sorry about all the units that are constantly changing, but this is the world we live in. So I'm just going to mark the gauges here, mark the time, and we'll see if it holds vacuum for any length of time. Half a needle's width on the gauge. Nearly 20 minutes past 5. By the way, in case you never picked it up in the video, that line was drawn at the base of the pump there to give you an idea of the movement and vibration of the pump. There was very little. Right, so there's the specs again on the pump. I think it's pretty much amongst the cheapest ones you can get, boys. Widely available at digital retailers everywhere. Let's see. Digital retailers, online retailers, I think I meant to say. There you go. Has that been half an hour? I don't know. Do the math. It hasn't moved. So this is good enough for me. It may not be good enough for you. My vehicles are 14, 12, and I think 10 years old. Yeah. So if I don't have this stuff and the air conditioning system goes inoperative and I have to change a component, that's it. It's not happening, because I can't spend the value of the vehicle in order to get my air conditioning working again. In southern Ontario here in Canada, our summers can be damn hot. Yeah, they're short, but they're hot and uncomfortable, believe me, humidity-wise. That's why I have this gear, and I'm interested in air conditioning. It's something that I would kind of like to potentially work a bit with in the future. But anyway, I hope this suffices here, guys. None of this gear is expensive. It's within the realm of most working stiffs, I would say, could afford this stuff if they choose. This stuff is useless to you if you don't take the time to get some education on the issue, guys. Again, books can be bought online for Kindle or whatever. There's good books to be had relatively inexpensively, and it's interesting. At least it interests me. That's it, boys. Cheers.